Eduardo Hearns, how are you, my friend?
One sec.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just been joined by head of Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, and just want to thank you, obviously, for coming on the program and taking out the time to talk a little bit of boxing with us. You've made quite a few announcements, and you have a lot on the table, so we're excited to talk to you. I guess we'll start with your most recent statement about being able or wanting to make a Haney Tank Davis fight, and I think that after being live at that Tank and Barrios event, I can't think of a bigger event than Haney and Gervonta Davis because of the two fan bases being intertwined. They bring kind of the same celebrity star power, right? They're both dating ex-girlfriends of former rappers, you know, so it just makes so much sense. And at least for Gervonta, he's seen a little bit of vulnerability in the Linares fight. Linares, who was much older than him, obviously was able to shake Haney up. So they should be a little, I guess, confident. What do you think? And can we get this one done? Would you guys accept the fact that Tank already said October is his date back?
Well, firstly, one thing about the Haney-Linares fight, which was he didn't really show vulnerabilities. He boxed an elite fighter. He got caught with a great shot. He got buzzed. He recovered. He won the fight convincingly. I thought that was a great performance. Secondly, I think Tank Davis is a star. You know, I think he's drawing big crowds. He's such an exciting fighter. You know, we saw his pay-per-view numbers. What was it, like 200,000? I think he's disappointing, but the market is so saturated right now with pay-per-views. I don't know what is a good number anymore. In terms of the fight, of course, look, Devin Haney's come through that test against Linares. He wants all of those guys, whether it's Tank, whether it's Teofimo, whether it's Ryan Garcia. You know, I saw Floyd's comments about we're only fighting guys in the PBC, and that's a shame because I think that limits your opportunity to be a great, you know. And but that being said, right now we're in a position with Devin where we just want to keep our options open so that there's no excuse why people shouldn't fight him. So right now, you know, we're working together moving forward. He has no contractual paperwork with Dazn, but he's happy to fight on the platform. He wants to continue that relationship. But at the same time, I don't want to give someone an excuse to say, no, we can't because of. So right now, if Devin Haney wants to fight Teofimo Lopez on ESPN, no problem. If Devin Haney wants to fight Tank Davis on Fox, no problem. If Devin Haney wants to fight Ryan Garcia on DAZN, no problem. Because I think everyone's getting a bit tired of this, oh, we can't do that because of this. You know, and I think the greatest example of all is Errol Spence against Terence Crawford. You know, that's the greatest example of all. But it shouldn't be just like, you can only fight this guy if you sign a 4-fight deal with the network. I don't agree with that. You know, if you believe in your fighter and you believe that they are good enough to win and they want to be great, they have to be able to fight everybody. So, you know, as far as Devin's concerned, ready for all comers. There's a mandatory fight this weekend, of course, with Jojo Diaz against Fortuna. That will be Devin's next fight, unless he's allowed an exception, which would come through fighting one of the names that I mentioned.
Absolutely. But he's in the best position of all of the, if you compare him to, let's say, a Ryan or a Teo, they're on contract. So in theory, it's easier for you to make the Haney-Gervonta Davis fight because you put him in this Canelo-like position now, correct?
Yeah, and it's not. Look, I think that being a free agent is, you know, a network free agent is quite dangerous unless you are a huge draw. And my advice to Devin is not, oh, let's just stay a network free agent. But right now, at this time, it eliminates any excuses. So, of course, you know, when you're a young fighter, you want the security of having a deal with a network. You know, there's only really two guys, you know, maybe a couple more, that I would advise that it's a great decision to do. One is Canelo and one is AJ. But if I'm Devin Haney, we want the security of a network deal, but at this specific moment, while he's looking for those super fights, I don't want to give anybody an excuse to say, oh no, we can't because you're with them, you know? So Devin Haney's ready to fight in October. He would fight Tank Davis like that. He would fight Teofimo like that. I still feel like the Ryan Garcia fight is the fight because, you know, I know that we can move networks, but you know, we're all under one roof there. It's a tremendous clash of styles. And don't forget that Ryan Garcia won a final eliminator against Luke Campbell to fight Devin Haney and turned that down. So, look, I think there's so many great fights to be made across 135 pounds. And I hope that Gervonta and those guys do sort of come out of the box a little bit and let him be great because he's a tremendous fighter.
While we're on the subject, one of our patrons, Andre Brown. Hey, Eddie, thanks for coming on the show. Is there any update with the negotiations between yourself and DHP? So anything you just said means you will remain the way you are now, letting him be kind of like Canelo, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, we want to, you know, as a young fighter, I mean, he's had a wonderful deal with Dazn. You know, they've really looked after him. And some of that was because he was elevated to world champion, and obviously he was paid handsomely for that. I have a brilliant relationship with Devin and Bill. You know, they don't forget that when we were smaller fish in the American Ocean, they put their trust in us, and we've worked tremendously well together. It's a partnership between Matchroom and Devin Haney Promotions. Personally, I have a great relationship with Devin. I respect him a lot. I admire him a lot, and he's a friend of mine. And, you know, we have a very solid relationship. So, yeah, we had a good chat after the Alvarez fight. We're moving forward together. And of course, you know, I think the sensible thing to do is to align to a network and to get that security. But at the same time, as I said, just at this moment, I think we're well placed to not give anyone an excuse as to why they can't fight Devin Haney.
And when you say excuse, did you see Leonard Ellerby's message right after the Tank fight saying, for the record, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, for the record, we tried to make the Ryan fight. Golden Boy told us they had a fight and we'd be seeing that soon, but obviously, you know, no fight came. Do you believe that fight was being negotiated or offered, like Leonard says?
I can just talk to you about that as a fan, really, because I don't know enough about it, but it was a bit weird because I do believe that Ryan Garcia wanted that Tank Davis fight, and I also believe that Tank Davis is a massive favourite in that fight. So I would have thought that actually Leonard and Tank Davis would have jumped at that fight. So something wasn't right somewhere. Do you know what I mean? If Ryan really wanted that fight, and if Tank really believed he could win that fight, that's a big fight. That does big pay-per-view numbers. Now, that's a real pay-per-view fight. But, yeah, you know, I just feel that I don't like the whole, you know, we're only fighting these guys, because I just feel that they're a bit limited. You know, if you look at the fights for Tank Davis, it's Haney, Lopez, Garcia. Really, I mean, that's the reality. I know he can stay at 140, but look, I really think, you know, I'm a big Tank fan. You know, I think he's a star. I think he's a great fighter, and I just hope that he can have those fights, because maybe he beats everybody, maybe. But we won't know, will we? And you know, when you look at, I keep talking about Terence Crawford, but he's in danger of losing. And there's a few fighters like that. Even Demetrius Andre, you know, our boy. And we're trying. You know, I'm sure Bob has tried with Terence Crawford, but the problem is when you're really good and you're really hard to beat, of course, you're not at the front of the queue.
So did Eubank turn that offer down?
Sorry?
Did Eubank turn the offer down? I remember about a month ago you said you sent an offer to Chris and that they liked it.
We sent an offer to Eubank. I'm talking to Demetrius and his team right now. I think Eubank would prefer a warm-up fight, but you know, if he does, I mean, he's just had a warm-up fight, so I don't know how many warm-up fights he wants. But I believe we can make that fight with Cali Sauerland and the Eubank team. Demetrius doesn't mind fighting Eubank, but look, let's be honest. Demetrius wants Gennady Golovkin, Charlo and Canelo Alvarez. And, you know, when I look at the three, I'm still baffled that we can't make Charlo against Andre. You know, two brilliant American fighters, two middleweight world champions. And another guy in Demetrius, where we've quite frankly stated we have no problem doing that fight on Showtime. You know, and even Stephen Espinoza came out and actually said he has no problem with Charlo fighting on another platform. So
I think that fight is I think that fight is dead, and for other reasons. If you talk to people in the industry, grudges,
why be dead?
Grudges. When I spoke to Ronnie Shields live on this show, it's his opinion that whoever they are, they don't want to do business with Andre for whatever he done in the past.
Boxing, eh? What's the point of that? I mean, that's just a load of bullshit, isn't it? I mean, you know, you want to be you want to unify the division, you talk the talk, you have to fight the champions. I mean, I'm seeing the amazing thing about Demetrius. I love Demetrius to bits, and I think he's a tremendous fighter. But I'm still, you know, even in his last performance, good win against Liam Williams, but got, you know, a little bit hurt in that fight, looked a little bit tired. Is he struggling at 160? Take your shot, man, at the guy, you know?
Totally agree.
Anybody. But, you know, I understand the thing. Look, Canelo's not going back to 160. He likes to face the champions. He wants to fight the plant fight. Understood. Gennady Golovkin, you know, he could fight Demetrius Andrade. Then he could fight Murata. You know, he could be one belt away from an undisputed fight with Charlo. But Charlo, you know, he says, I want to, you know, do what my brother did and unify and do this and do that. I don't believe that Gennady Golovkin's going to fight Charlo right now. So fight Demetrius Andrade. It's a really good fight. It's a great fight for American boxing. Both brilliant fighters.
I just spoke to Espinoza, and again, even he felt like, oh, well, we offered Andre to fight, and he chose to re-sign with Matchroom. Like, the interview's out. These guys have grudges.
Yeah, but what are you doing? That can't anyone see that's toxic for boxing. I mean, you're talking about something that happened about 4 years ago, right? And by the way, you know, Demetrius wasn't a world middleweight champion then. Right, so it's a unification fight between two American middleweight world champions. If we're going to make boxing great again, if we're going to engage the fans, if we're going to stop these YouTubers taking over, these are the kind of fights we've got to make. And it should be so straightforward. Absolutely. Demetrius isn't even asking for, there's no outpricing. No, he's probably the same price as they paid Derevyanchenko. Demetrius wants his opportunity to show how good he is. And every fighter should want that opportunity. But anyway. Absolutely. We'll be there all day.
We got Dual Ingram in Compton that says Mike Polite Coffee wants some smoke with Dillian Whyte. If he wins his next fight, would he be a great opponent for Whyte? What type of purse could he garner? That, I guess you don't want to give out numbers, but Mike Polite is going to be fighting Gerald Washington July 31st, main event, PBC. He's the American heavyweight that knocked out Darmani Rock on PBC. I don't know if he's come on your radar just yet.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot about him, to be honest with you. I know he's headlining that card. It's a strange headline fight. But clearly he's a prospect. You know, they rate him. For Dillian Whyte, really the plan. I like Dillian Whyte to come to America now and make some noise. I think you guys will really enjoy him. He's a real character. He's never in a bad fight. The Charles Martin fight is, you know, Charles is doing a good job calling that fight out. You've got guys like Jermaine Franklin, Cassius Chaney, you know, guys who are like 20-0 Americans and stuff like that. Maybe even this Coffey guy. Dillian will fight anyone. But right now, because of that sort of queue, if you like, with Wilder Fury and Joshua Usyk and, you know, maybe the undisputed fight after, I think Dillian's got to focus his next 6 to 8 months and say, what am I doing? And I would like to see him have 2 fights in America. You know, I think if we could come over in sort of end of August, fight a good unbeaten American and then move on and fight a Charles Martin or an Areola or, you know, a Luis Ortiz, I don't know, you know, someone that is known in that US market. I still love Dillian Whyte against Andy Ruiz. I think it's a great fight, you know. And
I like that Areola fight.
Yeah, it's a good fight too.
I like that Areola fight. He's never been, you know, stopped. It's only referee had to get involved. He's never clearly been knocked out. Like, that would be, and Areola hung with both Vitaly and Vlad, so it would be an interesting fight between those two. But yeah, man, since you brought up Wilder, Brandon Maurice in Cincinnati says, if Wilder wins the trilogy, will you keep the same energy and offer Wilder the 50-50 deal you were offering Fury?
That's something I have to speak to AJ about. I haven't thought about it. I guess so. I guess he would deserve that. He would come back and he would have a massive win. I think that the problem with the original negotiation is we offered him 60-40. You know that, and he didn't feel like that was the right deal. We just felt that at the time, Joshua was a significantly bigger star with a much better resume of wins than Deontay Wilder. Now, when Tyson Fury came over, and beat Vladimir Klitschko and then obviously beat Deontay Wilder twice, the deal was 50-50, and those terms were agreed, and everyone was on board with that. So, if Deontay Wilder could produce a massive win on his resume and become, a bigger name, I think that's a conversation to be had. The energy will be exactly the same, because the energy is not about the opponent. It's not about Tyson Fury. It's not about Deontay Wilder. It's just about the undisputed, and that's all we've ever wanted. I do feel it's an easier job for us to negotiate the Tyson Fury fight, because I feel like although it broke down, we were pretty much there. The guy announced the fight himself, so that should give you an indication of where we were at. And we never really got to that stage with Wilder, but that was a long time ago, Nest. I mean, you remember that episode well. But it worries me when you said things about Espinosa said, well, we offered him 4 years ago. We offered him that fight. It's like, I just hope people can work for the best interest of the fighter.
Wait, so you're saying that it wasn't a recent offer when Andre just re-signed with Matchroom? You're saying this was before he ever signed with Matchroom, and that's the only offer Espinosa sent them?
Yeah, he's been under contract. He hasn't been out of contract with us for 3 years. So yeah, I mean, unless Stephen Espinosa's made Demetrius Andrade a personal offer that we don't know about, which is not the case because we would have been told. I believe this is before, but Demetrius Andrade has been under contract with Matchroom since we started in America. So we've never received an offer for that fight with Charlo. If we had, and it was anywhere near reasonable, we would be accepting it immediately. But going back to the question, yes, the energy will be exactly the same. And if Wilder wins, listen, good luck to him. We want to move straight into that fight with AJ, but AJ's got to beat Usyk at the same time. The one thing I'll say about this whole heavyweight, circle is at least they're two interesting fights. Sometimes you're working towards this massive fight and then they both go off and have a small fight and it sort of dwindles a bit. It's two good fights. Fury Wilder 3, Joshua Usyk. They're both interesting. You've got two live dogs in those fights. So, but yeah, the energy exactly the same. We just want to make the undisputed fight, and it feels like a long time coming.
James Valdez from San Antonio, Texas. Thanks for opening up the boxing market even more here in the U.S. Although you've had challenges, what have you found most enjoyable about your dealings here in the United States?
It's definitely been a big challenge. I think that some people say to me, do you feel like you came in a little bit sort of gung-ho and bullish and maybe a little bit arrogant? And I'm like, yeah, but that's my style. Like, I'm a nice guy, but at the same time, we're aggressive and we want to make sure that, we can really go into a situation and dominate a marketplace. So for me, it wasn't about coming in and sort of petering around and not really making any noise. It was about making a big splash. Not a lot of people knew who Matchroom were. Not a lot of people, well, no one knew who Dazn were at the time because they'd literally just launched in the US marketplace as a platform. No one wants to let us in, Nest, obviously, So yeah, it's been interesting. But I really feel like we have a good sort of footing now within the marketplace. I believe Dazn has the best schedule in boxing. I believe it provides the best value for fight fans as well. And I think we're in a great place. The Canelo, the Canelo link up was massive for us. It really gave us a solid credibility. The biggest draw in American boxing, arguably the biggest draw in world boxing. And really, I think that was obviously put us in a great position with the Hispanic fan base as well. And I think we're in a great position. You know, there are no global promoters. You know, if you look at all these great promotional companies, none of them are promoting globally except for us. And that's the plan. And America's been a great challenge, but I feel like we've really got to grips with it now.
Absolutely. When do we expect another AJ return? Any possibility of the Usyk AJ fight taking place in New York because of the Ukraine, background and people in that area? Also easy for the United Kingdom to fly over, or is that only overseas?
I think that right now the focus is on the Alexander Usyk fight. And that should be in looks like September the 25th, which we're just finalising. Hopefully we can get that official this week. We're just working really with the stadium and the capacity, with a lot of the changes that are happening. We had good news from the government here yesterday, who are basically saying we're going to open things up. And I think AJ would love to fight in America again. You know, although the Andy Ruiz experience wasn't our greatest night, it was certainly one of the most dramatic. You know, it was definitely a night we'll never forget at Madison Square Garden. And I think he wants to come back and almost put that right. With AJ, honestly, like it's not a case of, oh, I want another 3 or 5 fights, then it's like he wants to fight for another 10 years. I'm not saying he will, but he just loves the game. He loves improving. He's a student of the game. He feels like he's got so much more to give. And I think he's going to do a lot. You know, I think he's going to obviously fight Usyk. Hopefully he fights the Undisputed. I see him coming back to America as well. And I see him being around and dominating for a long time.
Well, the question was more, can that AJ Usyk fight take place in America?
No, that'll be in England. Yeah, we want to bring a big event back to the UK, and if we can get 60 or 70,000 at Spurs, which is the discussions we're having right now, then that is what we'll be doing next.
All right, we may have your new Frank Smith here. Steve in the UK says, "Hi, Mr. Hearn. Firstly, thank you for coming on the show. I've been emailing Frank Smith periodically since his appearance on the show, asking him if you have any open job positions. And now I'm asking you, do you have any positions available for a skilled business analyst who has predominantly worked within the financial service sector? Frank has my CV, but I'm happy to forward it to you, my most up to CV if required. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Kind regards, Steve in the UK. P.S. It's coming home." Whatever. It's coming home.
What that means next,
I have no clue.
England. Listen, England right now are in the semi-finals of the European Championships, okay. Right? That's on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So it's coming home is a very famous saying that we say Wednesday, like the championship's coming home.
Got it.
And we've been saying it for years and years and years. We haven't won a major championship since 1966. So any time we get a run in a tournament, we just basically say to each other, it's coming home. It's coming home. And Wednesday is the semi-final. In that respect, we are actually, we've just, our new deal with Dazn in the UK, we also launched a business called Matchroom Media, which will run all the live production now for our events and all the content and the shoulder programming. We're expanding our digital department, our legal department, our operations department. So in answer to the question, keep an eye out on Matchroom's LinkedIn, and there'll be some new positions opening up very soon. So good luck.
All right. Miguel says, Eddie Reynoso mentioned Earl Spence as a possible opponent and would be willing to meet him at 164 pounds. What's your thoughts on that fight and the catch weight?
I think it's a great fight. I think Canelo's really comfortable at 168 pounds. You know, could he go down to 164, 165? Yeah, I think for the right fight, that's a decision for Eddie and Saul. I've never really met anyone, Nest, who he doesn't care who he has to fight. Like, when I was with him last week in Guadalajara, he was just like, the Plant fight is the one that he wants. It's the Undisputed Championship. But I said to him, look, after a while, and maybe that's the end of this week, if that's not going to materialise for September, who would you like to fight? And he was like, I don't mind. Like, just tell me, give me my options. I said, well, he said, could we fight that guy at 175? I said, Dimitri Bivol? He said, yeah, we fight him. He said, but the other guy as well. I was like, Beterbiev? He's like, yeah, him. That's good. It's like, wow. That's a... Bivol is a very talented 175 pounder. Beterbiev is a beast, 175 pounder. I mean, but he doesn't care. So if the Errol Spence fight was presented to him at the right weight and the deal was right, I think he has no problem. He has no problem fighting anyone. And it's so unique to be in a position, like I said, going back to that sort of free network status where you can, with the plant thing right now, if the deal to do it on Dazn doesn't work, we'll do it on Fox. No problem. And if that doesn't work, then maybe we do Beterbiev on ESPN, or maybe we do Bivol on Dazn. It's a great spot to be in. But I've never really met a fighter who is, one, so driven, but two, so confident of really beating anybody. And Eddie Reynoso shares that confidence and belief with Sal.
I would love for you to do Canelo versus Earl, especially in Dallas, and try to get 100,000, right? Mikey and Earl did 48. Liam and Canelo did like 51. I mean, the two of them have to be able to put 100,000.
Yeah. We did 73.
Exactly. That's another one with Billy Joe. So
exactly, man, a Brit. So
Earl has to. I would love that fight, man. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can offer to him after the Pacquiao fight. It would be a huge fight for boxing fans. That's what I love about Canelo, that he fights in stadiums, allowing every person to come to his fight, not just the rich and famous, man. So you guys did a wonderful job in Miami too, so I could just imagine what Dallas would look like between him and Earl with the fireworks and everything. Next one is from Miguel that says 411 on Mikey Regis.
Yeah, it's had a lot of traction, that fight.
How'd you get two PBC fighters to fight on DAZN?
Well, they're not really. I mean, obviously, Mikey's last fight was with DAZN, with Jesse Vargas. Did very well. We had, I think, about 11,000 there in Dallas for that fight. He's a big star still. He's another guy that's willing to fight anybody really across sort of just over 135 all the way up to 147. Regis Prograis is a guy who's, with those belts tied up at 140 pounds, Regis is kind of in a position where I think anywhere between 140 and 147, he's ready to fight anybody. And that fight got a little bit of traction, and we're in talks with both guys at the moment. I don't know if we're going to get there, but the response was really good for that fight. I think outside of the championships, that's one of the biggest fights to be made. New Orleans or Dallas, Mikey sells well everywhere. He's extremely popular. But it'll be a fun fight, right? I mean, I think that every fight fan accepts that Mikey Garcia against Regis Prograis would be great fun to watch.
Big Casual, the best promoter in the game, Mr. Eddie Hearn. What top boxers are you looking at for Andre next? Go ahead and get that Arab money ready, because we will be bringing to Tom on July 24th. Hashtag stay tuned.
I think that for Demetrius, there's three guys he really wants to fight. Obviously, everybody wants to fight Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin in a unification, Jamal Charlo in a unification. I think it's really, I kind of feel, I know it's not our fault and it's definitely not Demetrius's fault, but I kind of feel a responsibility at the same time to deliver for him. And I'm doing everything I can. We're taking the barriers away. We're saying we'll fight on any platform. We won't overprice ourselves. But it just, I don't know whether, Ness, that a lot of these American fighters grew up with Demetrius through the amateur system, and they've always known how good he is. Do you know what I mean? And he's not getting on, but he's been around a while. And I think as a young amateur, this kid was sensational. So if guys like Charlo and people like that have been around him, sparred him, and they know, because let's be honest, what is the reason that Jamal Charlo would not fight Demetrius Andrade? Take away, because you can put up barriers and say, yeah, well, 4 years ago this happened. But the reality is, don't you think that if that was an easy fight, Jamal Charlo would be unifying the WBO championship? He would have done it already. So the only reason that fight's not happening is because they know how difficult it is. Now, I'm not saying Charlo can't win the fight. He's a great fighter. But let's be honest, if that was an easy belt to grab, they'd be grabbing it. So, like, I just think people know how good Demetrius is and how tough he is to beat, because otherwise they'd fight him. Now, if Demetrius was an unknown champion that was not easy to beat, Gennady Golovkin would have fought him and unified. Charlo would have fought him and unified. So it is frustrating, you know.
Eddie, has a female boxer by the name of Shadasia Green crossed your radar? 8-0, 7 KOs, Olympic alternate, sparred Clarissa Shields, Christina Hammer, Alicia Napoleon, one division above Savannah Marshall. Never heard
Hasn't crossed my radar yet. No, we get some. I think we've kind of established ourselves as like the principal promoter for women's boxing, and I love it. You know, Katie Taylor was the reason that we got involved with women's boxing, and you know, we love her to bits, and she's inspired me really to invest in that side of the sport. I think that the standard and the fights are getting better and better. There's some real superstars out there. We represent many champions, so she's someone we'll look out for. And there's a lot of fights I want to make in women's boxing, you know, particularly Savannah Marshall against Clarissa Shields. I think that's a must for both.
We got Natural Wiz. He says, "Hey Eddie, I love your promoting style. What is your current relationship with Dana White, and is there anything in the works for a collaboration, as I am a boxing fan and an MMA fan?"
I don't know. I don't think, you know, I think if Dana was going to do something in boxing, would he want to do it with me, or would he want to just do it himself? Probably do it himself. I've met Dana probably three or four times, and he's always been a gentleman to me. You know, he's always supported me, sent me some nice bits and pieces over messages of kind of like support. I'd like to think that he thinks we're a good business and good operators. And, you know, when I first went to the UFC centre, when Danny Jacobs was training there, he went out of his time and he showed me around. He showed me his new facilities there at the Apex. And I'm a big admirer of the UFC, Ness, you know, as a business. And I think there's a lot. I've said it in many interviews, and I will often say to our team, just look at what they're doing, you know, because they set the standard for fight sports promotion. And we want to be the UFC for boxing. You know, that doesn't mean, take over and put everyone out of business, because there's plenty of other MMA business. But we want to be the principal global promotional company for boxing, and that is a model that, you know, has worked really well for the sport of mixed martial arts.
I was talking with my audience about that earlier and hoping that we got to the monopolization of boxing and Dazn. How far-fetched is it for whether it be you or whoever in Dazn to offer PBC the similar deal that they offered a Canelo? Not Canelo, Oscar and Golden Boy. Not that you know, you guys did a lot of business, but there was some business that was Matchroom and Golden Boy. Some cards did come from that. Obviously, you know, Matchroom couldn't get together with Canelo and do an Andre fight at the time. But can we see Dazn extend the network to other promoters to kind of monopolize boxing? Or does it all have to go through you? Do you ever see a day? How do we monopolize it if we don't offer these other promoters the opportunity to be on Dazn?
It's not, you know, monopolizing the boxing industry. I don't really like the word monopolize, because to the fans that sounds like, you know, a bad thing. What we're just trying to
everyone under one umbrella is.
Yeah, but I think it's impossible, Ness. I think there's, you know, your comments earlier about, you know, he said this 4 years ago, and it, like, you know, the egos in the business. And I'm not saying I don't have an ego either, by the way, but to get all those people together under one umbrella, I just think it's absolutely impossible. But my version of monopolizing the boxing world is not to collaborate and everybody get under one umbrella. My idea is just to be the biggest and the best and create your own network, if you like, and your own global platform within the sport, which is what we're doing with Dazn. So, like, for instance, right now, you know, you've got our fighters might be in Italy or Spain or the UK or America or Mexico or Australia, markets that we're in. You know, fighting each other, you know, fighting in key markets around the world, giving fighters the opportunity to box internationally. That's really the only way I think it can be done. And the only other way is to buy these companies. You know, is to come in and for Matchroom to buy Top Rank or Matchroom to buy PBC or some investment, or, you know, but again, that's messy as well. So I would rather like to see nature take its course and watch the cream rise to the top. That's going to take some time, but just like in MMA, you've got Bellator, and you've got UFC, and you've got Cage Warriors, and you've got Combate Americas. So it's not that like mixed martial arts all came under one roof. It's just that UFC were the cream of the crop, and they became the dominant force of global mixed martial arts. And that's what our plan is for Matchroom, to become the dominant force of global boxing. And I feel we're on the way. So always willing to collaborate with people, always looking to make great fights, always looking to give our fighters opportunities to make the fights that they want to be in, and obviously make them as much money as possible. But this monopolisation doesn't come by everybody getting together and having a nice cup of tea and saying we should all work together under one umbrella. That is a dreamland scenario, and that would never ever happen because of the mindset of people, the ego of people, and the bad blood in certain relationships.
But you don't think it just boils down to budget? Like if Fox is giving, you know, PBC 38 million hypothetically for the year, and Dazn could offer more, doesn't it just come down to that?
Maybe, but it's not an unlimited pot. You know, it has to be justifiable. You know, Dazn are already making a huge investment in American boxing. You know, you've seen the platform, obviously, with Canelo Alvarez as well, and Golden Boy is a part of that as well. I don't think it's just a case of, oh, there's another 100, there's another 100, right? Come on, guys, let's all fight on Dazn. I think we have a really solid plan and a great global strategy with Dazn. The US move was significant, and that launches July 31st. With Fight Camp, and we're in a great position. You know, Australia is going to be next, then Germany, then Canada. Obviously, we've launched in Mexico, we're in Italy, we're in Spain, we're in America, we're in the UK. This is a really exciting project with Dazn, and we're happy with our plan and our strategy. Again, happy to work with everybody, but we have to keep our mind sharp on the plan and the strategy.
I know we've gone over time, so two fighters that you spoke of, well, one you didn't speak of. Thomas Lamana says contact him. He wants the Ted Cheeseman fight. He just fought Laura on PBC. He said, give me Cheeseman. And Haney, excuse me, not Haney, Chaney, Cassius Chaney, who you mentioned, said, I heard that. I'll take the white fight. And he also says, can an American heavyweight prospect like myself get some publicity with Matchroom? But I'll still take the white fight. So yeah, there you go. Yeah. They're listening.
His name's come up about working with him. We're keen to do that. So Cassius will be in touch. I just feel that when you're an American heavyweight and you're what is Cassius 20-0 or something like that, or Franklin's 19-0, and like we should be making some noise about those people. Mm-hmm. You know, and you never know when someone steps up the levels how good they can be. And you know, if you're an undefeated young American heavyweight, you should be some kind of property, you know, because in the UK, if I had a kid who was 20-0 and a heavyweight, I'd be all over him.
That's right. Well, Eddie, like I said, I know this was supposed to be a certain amount of minutes. We do appreciate your time, and but you didn't give your thoughts on Cheeseman and Lamana. You like that fight or no?
Cheeseman's got a fight for the British title coming up, so we'll see. We'll see, Thomas.
All right. Well, Eddie, man, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you coming back on the program, and enjoy the rest of your day. You want to give out your social media? I know you're blowing up on social media. They're probably already following you, but give it out just in case.
Yeah, at Eddie Hearn, across Twitter, across Instagram. Thank you for all the support for our US followers. Subscribe to Dazn anywhere, anytime, anywhere in the world. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon.
Link in the description for that Dazn. Make sure you use my affiliate link. Eddie, thank you again.
Cheers, guys.
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Promoter, Matchroom Sports, Eddie Hearn.
Yo, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.